Why did Ever After High end? Well, if you ask the average fan, they'll probably tell you it's because Disney came out with Descendants, and since no one can compete with Disney when it comes to fairy tales, that was the end of things. But what if I told you it actually goes a lot deeper than that? Hi, I'm Sasha, and I like to take deep dives into childhood media in order to escape the horrors of adulthood. When Ever After High came out, I knew that no matter what happened, the story would end one of two ways. Eventually, the series would have to decide. Just choosing your own destiny have a negative impact, or not. But the series actually managed to surprise me with its ending. It didn't have one. Gotta say, I definitely didn't see that one coming. Ever After High's animated series ended rather abruptly. The most common narrative for why this happened is that Descendants copied Ever After High, became too much competition, and this caused Mattel to cancel the franchise due to declining popularity. For a really long time, I also believed this. But in reality, this is only one of many chapters in the story of why Ever After High ended. And today, I'm going to walk you through each one of them. Chapter 1. The Disney Princesses. Mattel, the company that's responsible for Ever After High, has had an ongoing relationship with Disney for decades. It began in 1955, when Mattel decided to test out the new marketing strategy of television advertising by sponsoring the Mickey Mouse Club. This move ended up being a huge success for Mattel. A Time article from 1962 credited this partnership with changing the toy industry forever because it led to toy companies advertising year-round instead of just during the holiday season. Fast forward to 1996, when Mattel entered an exclusive contract with Disney to create dolls for its line of Disney princess characters. While this was an exclusive contract, Disney has never really been a one-company kinda gal. Disney would go on to have contracts with both Mattel and its competitor Hasbro for separate properties that Disney owned. Mattel handles Disney princesses and Pixar toys, while Hasbro is in charge of Star Wars and Marvel toys. By 2014, the Disney princess dolls were bringing in an estimated $500 million annually for Mattel. With the princesses being worth so much money and not really showing any signs of stopping, you would expect Mattel to prioritize this relationship, especially since Barbie sales were declining at the time. But that was not the case. Please enjoy this dramatic reenactment starring me playing opposite myself.
Hey Disney, it's so good to see you!
Likewise, darling.
So, what brings you to my office today?
Well, the team and I have been discussing the Disney princess dolls, and we seem to be in agreement that the most recent releases haven't exactly been up to the standard that we've come to expect from you.
Oh my gosh! Well, I totally understand why you would want to talk about that. So we'll want to set up a meeting with the design team and the quality control team. So let me see what their schedules look like. Okay, so it looks like all of next month they're busy focusing on Monster High releases, and then after that they're focusing on the Barbie Playline and the Barbie Collectibles dolls. You know we gotta look out for our girl. So would 3 months from now work for you?
3 months?
Oh my gosh, silly me. I totally forgot. We are full steam ahead for the release of our new doll line, Ever After High. That's gonna keep the team pretty busy for a while, so let's say 6 months from now just to be safe.
I'm sorry, what exactly is Ever After High?
Well, it's our new doll line about the children of fairy tale characters. You know, like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella.
I see. Well, this has been very informative.
So glad I could help. So should I go ahead and schedule you for 6 months from now?
Well, I'm sure it couldn't hurt.
Awesome! Thanks for stopping in. Have a good day!
Likewise. Daisy, how quickly can you schedule a meeting with Hasbro? In 2013, Barbie was, as usual, the top-selling doll line, followed by Monster High. However, Barbie sales had been continuously decreasing. In the hopes of maintaining its hold on the doll market, Mattel put the majority of its focus into these two doll lines, making Barbie and Monster High a priority over its partnership with Disney. You know, you put your own life vest on before helping those next to you. But as a result, Disney felt as if the princesses were being neglected. Couple that with the release of Ever After High, which Disney no doubt viewed as competition for the princesses, and Mattel had inadvertently created the perfect storm. Disney was already fed up about playing second fiddle to Barbie, and it certainly wasn't about to do so with another line of princess dolls. So, having had enough, in 2014, Disney broke its exclusive contract with Mattel after nearly 20 years, announcing that it would be taking the princesses over to Mattel's competitor, Hasbro. This was pretty shocking because other than Gem and the Holograms in the 80s, Hasbro didn't really have much experience with dolls. But thanks to a successful brand relaunch with My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Hasbro proved that it did in fact know how to sell toys to girls, which attracted Disney's attention. The contract with Mattel was broken in 2014, but it didn't officially end until 2016. Disney did, however, maintain its relationship with Mattel for Pixar toys. So it wasn't this big, dramatic falling out. The two companies were still working together, so they had to maintain a professional relationship. However, an executive at Mattel did later admit that the release of Ever After High was most likely what caused them to lose the contract. All of this was really horrible timing for Mattel. In 2014, Disney Princess doll sales were up by 10%. Meanwhile, Barbie sales were down by 15%, and Monster High sales were down by 26%. The then CEO of Mattel claimed that the obsession with Frozen was at least partially to blame for this. A different spokesperson for Mattel, most likely in an attempt to pretend that everything was fine, claimed to CNN that Frozen mania would probably die down by the end of 2015, which we all know obviously didn't happen. But Mattel would soon have bigger problems than the success of Frozen. Chapter 2: Rise of the Descendants. Imagine a school for the children of fairy tale characters. Each student wants to pave their own path, but they will always carry the burden of being associated with their fairy tale parent. If you thought I was talking about Ever After High, I don't blame you, but I was actually describing Disney's Descendants. You see, both of these franchises were built around pretty much the exact same premise. Let me start off by saying I am a fan of both Descendants and Ever After High. People can hate on Descendants as much as they want, but the original trilogy, especially the first two movies, are good. They're entertaining, they're sweet, and they give me an excuse to stare at Boo Boo Stewart for 2 hours. I enjoyed living in a world where both of these properties existed. Yes, they had similar premises, but they ultimately took different approaches. But of course, we have to discuss the decade-long debate. Did Descendants copy Ever After High? The short answer is probably not. Ever After High debuted in July 2013. The first Descendants movie premiered on Disney Channel 2 years later on July 31st, 2015. However, production for the film was announced all the way back in December 2013, and filming began in the spring of 2014. I'm speaking as someone who actually has experience in film production, and I can tell you it is a long and complicated process. Months of planning and organizing go into making a movie before you even start filming. Descendants is a feature-length original musical with a large ensemble cast. It was an incredibly ambitious project, and I have no doubt that a lot of time was taken to work on it, which most likely included months of rewrites before Disney greenlit the final script for production. I tried really hard to track down an exact timeline for the script creation process of Descendants, but I didn't have any luck. Well, aside from some conspiracy theories on Reddit from angry Ever After High fans, which I'm not going to count as a reputable source. And some rumors even claim that Disney brought the idea for Descendants to Mattel before Mattel created Ever After High. Look, I love being petty, so I'm not opposed to the idea that Disney created Descendants to spite Mattel, but it was most likely a coincidence that these two franchises were created around the same time. There are a few factors to consider here. First of all, Ever After High wasn't even Mattel's first choice for a doll line. The creator of Ever After High has apparently confirmed that the first Monster High spinoff was originally going to be an alien-themed high school, but that got scrapped after MGA beat them to the punch by releasing Novi Stars. This is supported by the fact that Mattel filed a trademark for the name Cosmic High back in 2012, about 3 months before Novi Stars debuted. A different designer claimed that there were going to be a line of witch dolls, but they encountered the same problem when MGA released Bratzillas. This is also believable given Mattel's recent release of the witch doll line Moonspell Magic, which is a Monster High spinoff. So Ever After High was supposedly the third choice of concepts for Monster High spinoffs. If it wasn't for MGA, Ever After High might never have come into existence. But that doesn't mean Descendants wouldn't have still been created, because there is another very important detail that Ever After High fans, myself included, often forget. ABC's show Once Upon a Time premiered in 2011. The first 3 seasons of the show are generally the most well-liked, which means that Ever After High was created during the height of its popularity. Once Upon a Time was a reimagining of fairy tale characters in both the fairy tale world and the modern day. This included characters that Disney has yet to make film adaptations for, like Little Red Riding Hood, Rumpelstiltskin, and the Wicked Witch of the West. ABC, in case you didn't know, is owned by Disney. This show was massively popular at the time, so it wouldn't exactly be a stretch to say that it may have inspired Mattel to create a fairy tale themed doll line. Once Upon a Time isn't a show that's appropriate for children, so it also wouldn't be a stretch to say that Disney was inspired to create a more kid-friendly version. Descendants was immediately a massive hit for Disney, becoming the 5th most watched cable movie of all time. Disney obviously anticipated this film being a success because it released a book series that began before the film premiered, and it announced an animated series immediately after it premiered. And of course, they released a line of dolls. Having dolls for a popular movie isn't anything abnormal, but the book and animated series were not things that Disney typically released for DCOMs. While I don't believe Descendants was a ripoff of Ever After High, I will admit it's possible that this idea came from the similar strategies that Mattel used for Monster High and Ever After High, which also both have animated series and books. As expected, Disney partnered with Hasbro for the Descendants dolls. This deal was apparently in place back in 2013, before Disney left Mattel. Considering Disney had a company called Just Play create the dolls for Teen Beach Movie in 2013, when it previously had Mattel make the dolls for High School Musical in 2006, it's safe to say their relationship was already on the outs. While there's no evidence to support the theory that Descendants copied Ever After High, it is reasonable to assume that its popularity had an impact. I mean, if Frozen dolls were impacting Barbie sales, then they were definitely impacting Ever After High sales. And surely a franchise with a nearly identical concept would do the same. According to a 2022 article from Deadline, about 7 million dolls were sold during the run of the first 3 Descendants movies. Let's say about 2 million of those were sold after the first movie, and they sold for about $20 each. That would be about $40 million in sales. In 2014, it was estimated that Ever After High brought in about $53 million in sales. So the sales figures were about the same, but the difference is that the Descendants dolls were released as part of a bigger franchise, whereas Ever After High's main focus was selling dolls. Ever After High's popularity began to decline around 2015, which is why people love to blame Descendants. But there were several other factors that ultimately led to the demise of this doll franchise. Chapter 3: Losing the Plot. Now, we're all Ever After High fans here, so I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath before I drop this hard truth on you. Ever After High wasn't perfect. I know, it hurts. But it's true. It's important to remember that Ever After High was released as a sister series to Monster High. Ever After High had a pretty strong start, and there was definitely some overlap between the two fan bases, but probably not as much as Mattel had hoped. I mean, that $53 million it made in 2014 kind of pales in comparison to the $500 million that Monster High made the year prior. Mattel was most likely expecting Ever After High to at least somewhat mirror the success of Monster High, but it didn't. So why exactly was that? For starters, there's the concept. Kids who enjoyed playing with the spooky monster dolls weren't necessarily the same kids who would enjoy the classic princess aesthetic. And kids who already liked princess dolls were probably just going to buy the Disney ones. One of Monster High's core focuses is diversity, which is something that Ever After High noticeably lacked. The original release included 4 characters, and with the exception of Briar Beauty, who is ambiguously tan, all of them were very pale. Subsequent releases kept adding more white characters, with the exception of Cedar Wood, who is made of wood, so I'm not even sure if that really counts. Several Ever After High releases didn't include any characters of color, and if you don't count Briar, whose background has never been officially confirmed, then that amount changes to nearly all of the releases. Mattel didn't make any significant effort to add diversity to the lineup until years after they debuted, and none of those new characters were introduced in a way that implied they would become main characters like Raven Queen and Apple White. The character designs themselves also lacked diversity compared to Monster High. One of the things that made Monster High so popular was the fact that practically every character had a unique face and body sculpt based on whatever monster it represented. Aside from the occasional height difference, with the exception of a few characters like Cedarwood and Kitty Cheshire, pretty much every Ever After High doll had the same face and body sculpt. That's not abnormal for a doll line, but when you couple it with the complete lack of diversity, it makes the dolls significantly less interesting. Like, you could tell me that this Ashlyn doll was actually Holly, and I would easily believe you. Something else that Ever After High has seemed to always struggle with, even to this day, is the animated series being more popular than the dolls. The majority of fan discussions I've seen online about bringing Ever After High back center around the plot and how the show ended unresolved. Of course, there's people who want the dolls back as well, but to me, it's always felt like Ever After High had more success as an animated series than it did as a doll franchise. Partially because it kind of felt like Mattel was putting more effort into the animated series. There were multiple times where characters were given new outfits in the series that never appeared on any dolls. A prime example is the Throne Coming special. Pretty much every character was given a special design, but only 5 of them were made into dolls. The animated series was released before Mattel realized it could make money by uploading episode compilations to YouTube, and after the time period where they could make a significant amount of money by selling DVDs. So if the dolls weren't selling, Mattel couldn't care less about how much people were enjoying the animated series. As for the show itself, it quite literally lost the plot along the way. The first 3 chapters of Ever After High center around the storybook of legends and what will ultimately happen to the students if they refuse to sign it and follow their destinies. We see the characters go on various adventures, but they would always circle back to this premise. That is, until Way to Wonderland came out. At the end of the special, Briar, Apple, and Raven agree to allow the students to choose if they want to follow their own destinies or not. Raven uses a spell to make the pages part of the students, and then that's it. We never find out if there's any sort of consequences for the people who don't follow their destinies. It's honestly a very anticlimactic ending to such a massive story arc. The story also centered around the labels of Royal and Rebel, but the meaning of those labels got muddied really quickly. For example, Madeline was considered a rebel, even though she never had any issue with becoming the next Mad Hatter. And characters like Faybelle and Duchess Swan were called royals, even though they don't get happy endings. The Royal Rebel concept seemed to flip-flop between meaning the haves versus have-nots and being about whether people wanted to follow their destinies or not. The show did play with the nuance of this concept a lot, which was great for character development and storytelling, but not so great when it comes to branding. And the branding would only get more confusing as time went on. Chapter 4: The 2016 Reboot. 2016 marked the beginning of Chapter 4 in the Ever After High story, but it kind of felt like starting a new book. Both the dolls and the animated series were given a soft reboot. All of the characters stayed the same, but after the Dragon Game special was released at the beginning of the year, there was a noticeable shift. For starters, the tagline was changed from "The end is just the beginning" to "Where princesses are powerful." So just immediately, we are abandoning the original premise and ignoring the fact that not every character is a princess. The Ever After High theme song was also changed to a new song called Power Princess Shining Bright, which had some very on-the-nose lyrics, such as, "Everybody says I have to wait around to be rescued. Not gonna sit alone in a tower, I'll show the world my princess power." So instead of storytelling that focused on nuance and the complexities of characters with different upbringings, the message is now, girl boss, girl power. This rebrand was most likely done in response to this ongoing criticism of princesses that was happening in the early 2010s that called princesses problematic role models for young girls because they tend to be passive and prioritize romance. Yes, let's blame the princesses, and not these centuries of misogyny that created their circumstances. She can't choose her own husband or get a job, but she should still be able to defeat the villain in 17th century Europe. The tragic irony of this rebrand is that the original Ever After High went more against princess stereotypes than the new version did. Epic Winter, which was the last Ever After High special, placed a large focus on the new romance between Rosabella and Daring. Romance wasn't new for the Ever After High universe, but all of the other main couples that had been featured in the story were considered forbidden romances because being together went against their written destinies. Not only were they plot relevant, but the romances empowered several of the characters, like Ashlyn and Hunter, to stand up for their beliefs and go against what was expected of them. But Rosabella and Daring's romance didn't subvert expectations. It was basically just a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. Unlike Daring's previously hinted at romance with Cerise Hood, this was literally just a prince dating a princess. Before this rebrand, the series already had characters like Briar Beauty and Darling Charming, who both actively rejected their destinies of waiting for princes to rescue them. So the change really wasn't necessary. Along with the changes to the show were changes to the dolls. The mid-2010s was a rough time for dolls. Like many doll reboots at this time, the Ever After High dolls were given new face sculpts that gave them default smiling faces instead of the more neutral ones that they originally had. Not sure how playing into the stereotype that women should smile is feminist, but go off, I guess. They also did this weird thing where almost all of the dolls had molded on leggings instead of fabric ones. I assume this was done to save money. These changes were made even worse by the fact that Mattel released this insanely cool cedar wood doll at the 2016 San Diego Comic-Con, showing that they can make better dolls, they're just not going to. Fans weren't happy with pretty much any of these changes, so it's no wonder the series ended shortly after. Some people speculate that Mattel sabotaged the doll line on purpose to increase the odds of Disney coming back, but that just doesn't make any sense. If Mattel wanted Ever After High to end sooner, it could have pulled the plug at any time. It doesn't need the fan base's permission to do so. I found Mattel's 2015 financial report, and it was insightful in an unexpected way. The report details plans for Barbie and Monster High in the upcoming year, but doesn't make any mention of Ever After High, beyond the fact that it is a brand Mattel owns. If Ever After High had been a significant source of income for the company, then it would have been mentioned in the sales section of the report, like how other brands were. You know what is mentioned throughout the report? How losing the Disney princesses negatively impacted their bottom line. The harsh reality is that Ever After High was never a highly profitable brand for Mattel. The reboot was most likely done in an effort to change that, but instead it made everything worse. In hindsight, it's kind of surprising we got anything at all from Ever After High that year, since it clearly wasn't a priority. The final webisode for Ever After High was released in October 2016, though it definitely didn't feel like a final episode. In fact, it introduced a new character and storyline. In a counterintuitive move, the fourth season of the series introduced a bunch of new characters. Probably because this was when the company finally discovered what diversity was and released most of these characters as new dolls. The number of episodes in the season were far fewer than previous seasons, which implies that the series ended when it was only about halfway through the season. In 2017, Mattel got a new CEO, which seems to be the case every couple of years, and she announced that the company would be using a new strategy that focused on building up its power brands. This included American Girl, Barbie, Thomas & Friends, Fisher-Price, and Hot Wheels. You'll notice that the list didn't include Ever After High or Monster High, and if you remember what happened to Monster High a year later, then that probably makes sense. After the web series ended, Ever After High had a few more doll releases throughout 2017, most of which were budget dolls, before quietly being discontinued in 2018. 3 different book lines for the series were also released in 2017, one of which continued on until 2019. The multiple book series would have been the perfect opportunity for Mattel to give the story an official ending so that fans could actually have some closure, but why would Mattel care about that? Chapter 5: Disney Returns. After the Disney princesses officially left Mattel in 2016, Mattel pretty much immediately saw a huge decrease in profits. In a 2022 interview with the Wall Street Journal, Mattel executives claimed that they vowed to get the princesses back ever since they initially lost them. But of course, in order to do that, they would need the opportunity. In this case, patience would be their best asset. When Hasbro's Disney Princess dolls debuted in 2016, they were pretty well received. Throughout the years, Mattel's version of the dolls was often criticized for looking like regular Barbie dolls and not like the characters they were based on. Hasbro's new version in 2016 fixed this by giving each princess a unique face sculpt and different heights in an effort to more closely resemble their original character designs. For the first few years, Disney's partnership with Hasbro seemed to be going pretty well. They released both budget and higher-end dolls, and their comfy princess line for Wreck-It Ralph 2 got nominated for Doll of the Year in 2020. However, it didn't take very long for Hasbro to start making the exact same mistakes that Mattel had. After a few years, fans had started to notice a decrease in quality for the Hasbro Disney Princess dolls. Most notably, that almost every new release featured molded-on clothing as opposed to the fabric clothing they had only a few years prior. When you think about it, it's not really that surprising a company that primarily specializes in action figures is most comfortable making toys with plastic clothing. This drop in quality was also noticeable with the Disney Descendants dolls. Although to be fair, the outfits in the third movie weren't that interesting, so they didn't exactly have much to work with. Having already done this dance before, Disney once again decided to move the princesses. In early 2022, Mattel announced that it had reunited with Disney to take over the production of Disney Princess and Frozen toys beginning in 2023. Mattel knew that it could not afford to screw this up, so they took extra care in the creation process to ensure that the new dolls actually resembled the princesses this time around. The restored partnership seems to be going well, as the licensing agreement was renewed in 2025 for several more years. This included the rights to Frozen 3, which is apparently a thing. Since reuniting, Mattel has released multiple lines of collector Disney Princess dolls, as well as anniversary dolls for High School Musical's 20th anniversary this year, and amazingly, they also released 10th anniversary dolls for Descendants last year. That's right, Mattel has taken over production of the Descendants dolls as well. And I'm sorry, but the Mattel dolls are just objectively so much better than the Hasbro ones were. I know the Hasbro designs were based on the animated series, which also looked nothing like the original actors, but I feel like that may have been more of a skill issue than a simple artistic choice. If you're confused by some of these newer dolls I'm showing, you may not be aware that Descendants is, unfortunately, an ongoing series, with a new movie coming out this year. Though China Anne McClain is the only returning cast member from the original trilogy, and neither of the newest additions to the franchise has been directed by Kenny Ortega, so it's really more of a loose reboot. I watched the fourth movie expecting it to at least somewhat resemble the original series, but it's just not that good. Its whole premise basically retcons the circumstances for pretty much all animated Disney movies, and it seemed to place way more emphasis on the musical numbers than the plot. Although that makes sense considering how hard Disney has been pushing the live performance tours that have been announced alongside these movies. Obviously, the new movie seems to be a hit with kids, but it clearly wasn't made to appeal to fans of the original. You can't just give me Brandy as Cinderella and think that's going to be enough, people. Since a new movie is coming out soon, and I'm assuming they'll probably make at least one more, Mattel will most likely continue making Descendants dolls, which means it will probably never create Ever After High dolls again. Even though Descendants and Ever After High appeal to different generations at this point, and therefore probably wouldn't directly compete with each other the same way that they used to, the odds of Mattel risking its relationship with Disney just to appease fans of Ever After High are incredibly slim. By bringing back Ever After High, Mattel would risk losing the rights to Descendants, the Disney Princesses, and Frozen. That is way too much money to risk over a doll line that ultimately wasn't a big success for Mattel. Epilogue. So to recap, Mattel neglected its relationship with Disney in favor of focusing on its own properties. Mattel then created a fairytale themed doll line, seemingly without any consideration for how that may have impacted its relationship with Disney. Disney got irritated and left to work with Hasbro, which immediately caused Mattel to lose a lot of money. Since Ever After High wasn't a huge moneymaker, Mattel discontinued the series and started working with Disney again as soon as it had the chance. So technically, yes, it is Disney's fault that Ever After High ended, and why it will probably never come back. But it's less along the lines of a bitter rivalry and more along the lines of a messy breakup where the couple ends up getting back together. Disney was the one that got away, and I doubt that Mattel would jeopardize that relationship again by doing the exact same thing that angered Disney in the first place. It would be really nice if Mattel could give fans at least some type of confirmation about what happened to the characters, but it being left open-ended kind of suits the story in a way. Personally, I believe that the ending of Way to Wonderland implied that the characters would be free to choose their own destinies without repercussions. Several of the events that followed implied that many characters have destined love interests that aren't part of their original stories. So I choose to interpret that as meaning the characters do have their own destinies to follow, but they aren't the ones that were decided by the generations before them. In fact, their destiny is probably to break that tradition. But what are your thoughts? How do you think Ever After High should have ended? Did you know about Mattel's complicated relationship with Disney? What are your thoughts on the 2016 reboot? Let me know! If you liked this video, go ahead and subscribe for more nostalgic deep dives, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.